What up, y'all? We are back with another edition of DNVR Rams Live. As always, I'm Justin Michael. I've got Andre Simone here. We're live from the DNVR studio, and I cannot wait because we have a ton to dive into. It's been a crazy week. I have had a ton of recruiting stuff on the pod these last couple of days. On the hoops side, they picked up 5 transfers over the last week, so I dove into all of that. By the way, tomorrow I'll be going live at 10 a.m. Tune in. You're going to want to see my interview with Kevin Sweeney, one of the most respected college basketball writers in the country. I picked his brain on everything CSU, how he feels about their transfer additions, his thoughts on Nico Medved and why he thinks he's such a great coach. We talked about the reasons potentially why he didn't get hired by a bigger school, all of that fun stuff. It was great.
Beautiful.
You're not going to want to miss that. Also, shout out to Kevin Lytle, who was on the podcast yesterday to talk about all the latest news with me. His most recent article of projecting the starting lineup for this fall was the inspiration for today's podcast. My starters are going to be a little bit different than who he had projected. Make sure you go check that out. Coloradoan does great work, and they're obviously great friends to us on the show. Dre, we just finished up the draft pod, so I think at the end we'll get into some Tory Horton conversation and where he kind of stands in the way too early 2025 draft projections. But yeah. First things first, man, the Rams went out and they got themselves a burner in Armani Winfield. I do know his name. I called him Armani Weaver twice on the last pod, so my apologies. If you guys knew how much I've thought about that in the last 48 hours, it tears me apart inside.
Oh, why?
I just hate getting names wrong. I know what I'm talking about, obviously, but it's one of those things when I make a dumb mistake, it drives me insane.
You're going to get confused. It's going to happen, man.
I know.
They're just names.
They're just names.
It's not a big deal.
What jumps out to you about this? I mean, former 4-star prospect. He was a top 50 player coming out of Texas in the 2022 cycle. His offers included everyone from Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan to USC and Oregon and in between. Was at one point committed to Steve Sarkisian in Texas, signed with Baylor. Didn't produce a ton. I mean, had 8 catches for 100 yards over about a 15-game period the last 2 years, redshirted his freshman year.
Yeah.
What stood out to you? I sent you his huddle highlights. Obviously, that top-end speed jumps off the screen.
Yeah, that's really what stands out is the size and speed combo, looking like a man among boys in the in those high school Texas high school rankings, which usually Texas high school pretty competitive, already well built, 6'2", 205, and then seeing just the natural run after the catch ability. Just the big play ability for a wide receiver that's already really well built. Was impressive, man. Was really impressive. And then, I wonder how good of a high school was he playing at? Because if this is higher end Texas high school, it's no wonder he was getting offers from all those schools and was, a top 50 prospect in the state of Texas, a top 50 prospect in his wide receiver class, And dare I say, just like judging that pedigree, it feels like in some ways an upgrade on some of the guys that you've lost.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's the funny thing about the portal.
It is
there are times where the portal takes and you feel that negatively down the line. And I think when you look at defensively, the losses of Grady Kelly to Florida State and TJ Crandall to West Virginia, you feel that.
Yeah.
Other times, it can work out almost as a blessing in disguise. And it's not that you wanted the guy to leave that did, but sometimes you're able to, when one door closes, another opens up, and it ends up being a really intriguing possibility. You were wondering, he played 6A high school football, so I believe that's the top in Texas.
Not
Louisville High School
was
an Under Armour All-American his senior year. They had a great season, I think 11-2 if I'm remembering correctly, but go verify that. Don't take my word for it. I love the production that he had throughout his high school career. You look 3 straight years of at least 550 receiving yards, 22 receiving touchdowns. This is a guy that put up big time production at the highest level. And
dominant.
I mean, obviously you're hoping that it was just an instance of at Baylor, they've got a ton of talent, and he just kind of wasn't able to find his footing in a wide receiver room that's loaded. But for him to come over in this system, it feels like a perfect fit because he's a guy that can beat you over the top. He's got that great vertical speed.
Yeah.
But also he's a guy that's really effective in those bubble screen situations. And CSU, obviously, they love that. I mean, the air raid, so much of it is just throw as many quick passes underneath as you can to set him up over the top.
Man. I mean, there's one play in his senior highlights where he catches a crosser and he kind of has to like double catch it. But even as he's doing this, he's just running away from guys. He's just like disappearing from this secondary. If he can get those hands being a little smoother, he's going to be a massive weapon in the screen game, in those crossers, as a target over the middle to take those short passes and turn them into big gains.
I'll say this. I think this is kind of a great example of why, even though last season did not go the way that you hoped, why you still feel good about the future of the program with a guy like Jay Norvell. When you have Jay and you have Chad Savage, who's now been the Mountain West Recruiter of the Year 3 years running, twice at CSU, once at Nevada, they're going to be able to get talent. Like, especially at the receiver position, you're always going to be able to go get guys that want to play in this system.
It's what we've said when wide receivers have transferred out. Like, this is Jay Norvell's bread and butter. This is the staff's bread and butter. They will figure it out. They'll get someone else to replace the losses, and we'll feel good about them. And that's exactly what's happening here with an Armani Winfield signing, where I really feel like the upside to this signing is as good, if not better, as a lot of the wide receiver prospects we've seen come through Fort Collins.
I'm with you. I love what the staff has been able to do this offseason. You had to go out and get some proven commodities, and you did that. And, Donovan Ollie, obviously losing Justice Ross Simmons after spring ball, that's a bit of a bummer. Between him, LB, and Dallin Holker, that's about 100 catches. But you went out and you got guys with great size. I mean, he's 6'2", 205. Donovan Ollie's 6'3", 215. They went out and got a 6'7", 245-pound tight end. Their O-line is going to average out to be about 6'5", 305. Like, this is going to look like an NFL offense out there in terms of the size and the athleticism that they can bring to the table.
100%. And, I mean, that's the really intriguing thing about Winfield is he is running back size. So when he takes those screens, that's going to be a handful to take down. No, you're right. Really big. I mean, aside from the backfield where Justin Marshall is more of a speed over size guy, it's a lot of big guys on this offensive side.
And that's exactly from day one, that was basically the first thing Norvell preached. I remember back at his intro press conference, and he was like, I'm just going to be frank with you. This roster is not nearly big or explosive enough to play the way that we want to play. We have to go out and get bigger in the trenches, out wide, and in the secondary. And that's exactly what they've done now.
It's so interesting, man. He's built so much more of a program that's reminiscent of more what he learned in his time at Oklahoma than it is reminiscent of what he was building in Nevada.
I wonder if that's because he believes that the ceiling is higher at CSU in terms of like what you can have more sustained success. I think they're trying to, it's not a pro style offense, but it's closer to that than just like in terms of like the way they're going to use some of these receivers. And you know what I mean? Like it's not going to be early 2000s air raid where you're going 4 wide all the time. Like they're going to try and play ball control. They want to run the football.
Yeah.
And that's what he did at Oklahoma and Texas. Like so much of it, when he's coming over to Nevada, it's going to be 60 times a game. They don't really want to do that. They're going to be throwing 35 plus times a game most days.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be like we're going 5 wide every snap. We're going to throw 75 times. Yeah. Like it's kind of a nice little mix there, the best of both worlds of what he did at Oklahoma and then kind of what he established in Reno.
For sure. No, I think that's a really good point, and we'll see, man. And then there's other layers that can be added to that. Quarterback runs. And still getting 35 plus passes out a game, but how much of that is tempo dictating it? How many of those 35 passes are really like an extension to the running game.
Well,
you know?
we talked about that so much last year. So many of the crossers and the quick screens, if you're the guy's catching it within a yard of the line of scrimmage is essentially an extension of the run game.
It's a high percentage completion, just like handing it off to your running back is. Yeah.
I'll say this, it's always a win when you're able to land a prospect with this type of traits. There's no givens in the world. I mean, we watched Mekhi Fox be a guy that was a 4-star recruit at one point. Never even cracked the field. Now,
yeah, it happens.
That said, it's not that these rankings don't have any value because it's projecting what they could be. It's not a guarantee. It's what is your athletic ceiling. And with a guy like Armani Winfield, his athletic ceiling is insanely high. And it's why Texas and Bama and USC and everybody and their mother wanted him. The fact that CSU was able to land him over Wisconsin, I think, is encouraging. He visited CSU first, went to Madison, and then still decided, you want to know what? I want to go to CSU. Love that. Future feels bright. So bright, you should pick yourself up some Shady Rays. Get yourself some quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They're an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. That's 50,000 people more than I had to do this read last time. The people are in on Shady Rays. You love it. They're going to have a style for you. What's awesome is I think everybody on staff has at least one pair of Shady Rays by now. Most of us multiple.
Yes.
And I don't think I've seen anybody overlap. Like everybody's got their own unique style. They've got different colors. They've got all kinds of different stuff. It's awesome. And what's great about Shady Rays is they're durable, they're affordable, and they've got lost and broken replacements. So if you lose your pair, if you break them, they're going to replace them, no questions asked. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use that code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. I also want to talk to you guys about Circle K. I want to help you save money. I want to help you find the best deals possible. With Circle K, if you sign up with their inner circle, you are going to save 25 cents a gallon. For your first 5 fill-ups, you're going to get 5 Polar Pops for free. Woo! What are you doing? You want to pay 25 cents more a gallon like a sucker? You want to pay for your soda? Head over to Circle K, sign up with the QR code on the screen, or just go to circlek.com/innercircle for more information on how to become an Inner Circle member. All right, let's get into what this starting offense could look like in 2024. Obviously, it's May. You know, we got to get to campus. We got to see how some of these position battles are going to shape out. That said, a lot of the pieces were in place. It's why, you know, I don't think there were a ton of like intriguing storylines this spring. We went over some of the questions we had throughout, and I think we got some of those answers. Now I want to start trying to get an idea of what this unit is actually going to look like on week 1. Again, it's early. This is fun. This is what the offseason is all about. Speculation and using the information that you have to try and make an educated guess. Starting at the quarterback position, pretty easy. Braden Fowler-Nicolosi. He's your QB1. You wondered maybe, given the turnover issues last year, if they opened up a competition at least a little bit this spring. No. BFN is QB1. Jackson Brousseau is QB2. Not a lot of intrigue regarding their... if you're looking for the position battles, maybe it's like, does Giles Pooler hold on to QB3? You know, a veteran walk-on, or does, Darius Curry as a true freshman, can he be that third quarterback right away coming to campus this summer?
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what BFN can do in year 2. It's a big year for him.
It's a massive year. It's a massive year for him. He's really the catalyst for this whole offense. I think that's a big reason. I think last offseason felt the same, right? Like Clay Millen was pretty locked in. So, and that's
kind of why I wondered, like, do you have, because you've never really had a quarterback competition throughout spring ball or camp since Norvell's been here. You've always had a guy who you thought was the established quarterback. I could see the need of, like, do we explore it a little bit? But honestly, with how much pressure there is to win now, like, you kind of have to have BFN hit. Like, if he doesn't hit this year, you're not going to make a bowl.
That's right. And how much of a commitment you've made to BFN. Like, you guys are kind of married to each other. This year, in large part, you'll go as far as BFN can go. So hopefully all parties are, mutually committed to figuring this out and being the best they can be.
You love that, it was allegedly offered some big time numbers in the portal, chose to stick around, like the loyalty, like the mentality. He said all the right things this spring in terms of the leadership traits and, like, I know that I've got to rein in the turnovers and I know that it doesn't all have to be on me. And there were times where I was just trying to do too much, and you love to hear it. And I just want to go see him be out on the field and take it. That said, and I think the Oso Blanco is spot on in the comment section. He says, I have an unreasonable amount of faith in BFN, really think he will take a leap, and he has both the arm talent and intangibles.
It's college football for you, baby. Nothing like
I
dreaming
love
on a
that
kid
he has all the
off-season.
confidence in the world. Like, as much as, and I had some concerns about this, but like going into last year with Clay Millen, we talked so much about, is the beating that he took going to impact his confidence?
Yeah.
Is he going to be willing to stand back there and let it rip? Is he going to take chances with the football? Because as great as setting the freshman record for completion percentage was, as great as not having any turnovers was, it was so few that it was kind of indicative of a guy who was not willing to give his guys a chance. BFN's willing to give his guys a chance, almost to a fault at times. There were a couple times where I was like, don't throw that one. I'd rather have the quarterback who has the irrational faith in himself and is going to try to get the ball to Tory Horton than the guy that's going to check down and is going to go 3 and out.
Well, and I think that's why the Oso Blanco and other people are pretty optimistic about BFN. Is like, look, he wasn't perfect. It was his first year starting, and there are definitely
after getting no reps
like
with
that.
the ones in camp. Well, he got a few when I think the staff had some concerns about Millen, and it shows when they ripped him after 3 quarters.
And how good was the group around him? How, there's a lot of different circumstances. Now, though, it's really like it's year 2. You showed a lot of promise. You didn't crumble under the pressure. You had your various moments. It's not a matter of what's this guy's ceiling? Can he flash? He's done that. He's flashed. He's had his moments. We feel like we have a good grasp of what his ceiling could be. Now it's putting it all together. Hopefully the context you're in is a much more consistent, just a context that's going to allow you to be productive, right?
Yeah.
And you roll. I mean, but BFN's a big one, and maybe added factor is going to be how does he handle third downs? How does he handle passing it on the run?
They've got it. They just have to stay on schedule more. They were 2 boomer busts. That was 75-yard touchdown, or it was like, a 3-play 80-yard drive where you just quick hitter, gained a bunch of yards, or it was 3 and out.
Very
and
good within the pocket too,
Solid.
Yeah. So growing out his game and how does he evolve with the rest of the offense, I think, is the big question.
And you like that, at least in theory, with 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen back.
That's big.
You have some stability up front. You've got your number 1 pass catcher, the biggest security blanket that there is in Tory Horton.
Yeah.
A lot of things working in his favor. I appreciate everybody in the Toyota chat, Buffs and Ram fans alike. We got some Travis Hunter versus BFN debate. We'll see. It's going to be a fun matchup. I will say, though, Buffs fans, Travis Hunter got torched and he fumbled in that game before he got hurt. So maybe not the time to be puffing the chest out. Justin Marshall will be the starting running back, assuming all things are good. He did not play in the spring game. Norvell said he was dinged up. I've also heard there might have been some academic stuff there, so hopefully that's all good. But man, did this guy pop late in the year in a way that I don't know we have seen a CSU running back pop since like Capri or Dallin Dawkins in terms of vision and the ability to really explode through the hole.
I'd say maybe more like a Matthews breakout.
Yes, but with a lot more athletic upside, because even Izzy as a freshman was a bruiser, and then he battled some injuries, and that kind of slowed down some of his explosiveness. I think if he stays healthier, he has a more productive career, statistically speaking.
But it was a similar, like, we've seen
small
it
flash
in flashes.
as a freshman.
Now
Good point.
Is the breakout there. But certainly way more explosive. And also, I mean, 5'11", 175. I thought he played way bigger than that. Like, as a downhill
harder.
between the tackles running back, that's where Justin Marshall's really good.
You love for a guy who, when he's standing on the sidelines, isn't going to be the most physically intimidating presence in the world. You love how hard he ran, but also like he was patient. I think with some of those smaller backs, they can get impatient at times because they don't want to get their clock cleaned, which I get it. He will let the hole develop. And then when he hits it, he's so fluid, being able to go, make that one cut and then just put your foot in the ground and go. Like, that's not something that everybody has, the ability to, while full speed, make that quick cut, not really lose any of your momentum and keep going. Like, that's NFL ability.
And then that burst in speed allows him to be a really good running back running out of shotgun.
True.
And that's important in this offense. Really important, in fact.
I am interested to see if they mix in any pistol concepts at all. They did it a ton at Nevada. Mummy mentioned when they came over, I asked him about it, just like, is there any advantage to it? And he mentioned that he felt like they were able to run a little bit more consistently. So we'll see what kind of happens there.
Yeah.
In terms of the other running backs that'll be in the mix, Kobe Johnson, I think, will be like that 1A. If 1A and 1B together, you'll use them in a variety of ways. You'll get them some balls in the open space in terms of the screen game and swing passes, and use them as a pass catcher. And then, I think you'll see some Avery Morrow in the mix as well.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, a little surprised he's still on the roster, but that's a conversation for another day.
Who knows? Maybe this is the year.
We'll see. We got a question here from the Oso Blanco. How good is the tight end that we brought in? I was going to go receivers then tight end, but we'll just go tight end and receivers after.
Talk some
because
Jackson Warren.
It's easy. Jackson Warren, 6'7", 245-pound JUCO tight end coming into the mix. Look, I was pretty open at the start of spring ball that I think my biggest question for the offense was, is the starting tight end even on the roster right now? Took about a week to be like, nope, he is not. They went out in the portal, and they're really high on this guy. I mean, they talk about him like he can be kind of like a hybrid between Cole Turner and Dallin Holker. Like, they think he's a really natural pass catcher. He's got some wiggle in the open field. And frankly, I mean, when you've got a frame like that and you can jump through the gym, like, you're just going to have such an advantage in close corner situations.
Prospect?
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Not bad at all. That's where that deceptive athleticism is going to be there.
Yeah. I'm interested to see. I mean, obviously, like, it's a big jump up in competition. That said, especially in this offense where you don't have to be in line and blocking a ton to like really be impactful, he feels like a guy you can just scheme up some opportunities to get the ball in his hands. He's going to be a threat for you in the red zone, obviously, with that size. And if nothing else, he allows you to attack the seam and just continue to be aggressive up the middle, which was an element that they completely lacked in 2022. And I'd recommend, if you missed it, when we had Jay Norvell in studio last spring, he talked about how important that was of getting that back into the offense and not having safeties be able to just shadow Tory over the top every single snap.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a key, replicating what you had with Dallin last year, making this team more dangerous in the red zone. BFN's so good at throwing it over the middle, though.
And you can't lose that, especially because now you have the size and speed outside. I think Dylan Goffney in the slot is a guy that is going to give you some options. I do wonder, and I've actually heard I'm trying to blank on his name. He's a CU transfer wide receiver, smaller guy, about 5'9". Rams could be in the mix for him. But with the guys you have on the outside and the size that you brought in, I'm really interested to see how do you use these wide receivers? Because like Tory is going to be Tory, but Donovan Ollie, like, do you put him outside or do you put him inside? And do you go two bigger guys and Goffney out there and try to have somebody a little bit smaller, a little bit more versatile? Or do you just try and overwhelm them with size and go Ollie and Winfield and Horton all at the same time? That's kind of my gut. I think we're going to see a lot of that because especially with what Winfield and Ollie can do for you underneath as well as over the top, I think you try and lean on that size as much as you can. But frankly, like, best case scenario, you're hoping that you have 6-7 receivers that are really in the mix. And that's kind of the next evolution of this offense that we haven't quite gotten to yet, where it was basically all Tory year one. Last year, you get Lewis Brown in the mix. Justice Ross Simmons has a nice breakout season. Dallin obviously does his thing.
Yeah.
Now you're hoping it's kind of like that 2021 Nevada where you're looking at it and I mean, obviously they had big time production from Cole Turner and Romeo Dubs and all those guys. I mean, Tory Horton's like their 5th receiver at that point, and that's kind of what you're hoping can be the process with some of these younger guys.
And then the key to having that tight end is you're running all those crossers, then you have someone who's stretching the seam. That's going to put your defense in quite the predicament. So if Jackson Warren can be that kind of a threat, you've really got something.
I'm excited to see it. I mean, on paper, feels like a perfect fit.
I wonder if he's more of a yak guy right now than someone who's really going to stretch the seam and make those tougher catches in traffic.
Agreed, especially just,
which there's nothing wrong with.
You've only played tight end for a couple of years now. Like there's going to be some room for growth along the way. But in terms of some wide receivers to keep an eye on outside of Tory Horton, Ollie, and Winfield, Dylan Goffney, the SMU transfer, had a really nice spring. He had a great game against Boise State last year. Finished a little quiet, but I think he's a guy that can be impactful for you. Caleb Goody and Jamari Person are second-year players with good size, both 6'2", 200 plus that I would expect to see on the field. Levon Brown, Nevada native guy you might see kind of in that Goffney role, a little bit quicker, a little bit smaller, but you're going to need all of these guys to produce. That's going to be interesting. I'm really excited. Before we get to the offensive line and some of these questions I have, real quick, shout out to the homies at Coors Light.
Damn straight.
Coors Light embraces a chiller mindset, and I think that's something that we all need, especially.
Are you working on that?
I'm trying. I mean, it's the playoffs.
I feel like maybe you have chilled out a little bit.
A little bit.
I think the last year and a half, I've seen some growth.
Well, I would hope so. I'm getting up there in age.
All credit to Coors Light, though, right?
Hey,
it's the mountains turning blue.
It's the mountains turning
right?
blue. Coors Light has made it clear that they do not want their product to be referred to as the catalyst. But once I chose a chill mindset and I got that ice cold Coors in my hand,
that's right.
It just doesn't get any better than that because I have made the decision to have a good ass night. And there's something about Coors Light that just makes it a little bit easier when those mountains turn blue. Woo. It's as cold as the Rockies, cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chiller mindset, it's a good time to choose chill, crack open a Coors Light. Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart. Go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Let's go.
Now is also a great time to get Fubo. Obviously, there's a ton going on in the sports world. The Rockies, they won a game today as long as...
Could have watched that on Fubo. As long as they didn't blow it,
yeah,
right?
I was going to say, I didn't see that definitively.
I'll go check the score for you. Yeah, you never
They were
know.
up big. You would assume so.
Yeah. Avs game tonight, though, right? That's going to be on Fubo. That's big time. Just sign up and get in on the Avs. We'll see.
You never know, man.
I meant the Nuggets Friday.
The Nuggets Friday, you get that ESPN action going. The thing about Fubo is it's really convenient. You can just decide one day, you want to know what? I want to watch this game. I'm going to sign up. No contract, no cable, no hassle.
Rockies did win.
1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. You can get the NFL Network, Red Zone, U.S. Open Tennis.
Yep.
Whatever you're into, they've got it. Watch all the favorite sports, really including the Rockies with Fubo. Go to FuboTV.com/DNVR. Sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. I'm with you, Oso Blanco, in the Toyota chat. Blue can is better than blue balls. Oh. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no doubt.
The offensive line is probably the most interesting in terms of a couple of positions. The battle for who lands the starting left guard is going to be interesting to me. Likely moving Drew Moss to right guard after starting at right tackle last year. That seems to be kind of the intention. But what's encouraging, and I've mentioned this a couple of times to you in the past, so I don't want to get too repetitive, but in order for this program to have any type of sustained success, it's going to still have to be signed and developed, and they have to be able to hit, especially on some of these local guys in the trenches. Historically, offensive linemen out of Colorado have kind of been the bread and butter for us, and to see Aaron Karras likely be the starting right tackle, and to see a guy like Tanner Morley, who's probably going to be, if you can hang on to him, a multi-year starter for you at tackle in the future, at left tackle, it's really encouraging. And I've got Aaron Karras starting at right tackle, Drew Moss at right guard, Jacob Gardner returns for center. I've got Tanner Morley starting at left guard, even though he's 6'7". I just think he's such a mauler out there that they want to get him the experience. And then you've got Savion Henderson back at left tackle. Where it gets interesting is you do have a guy in Alex Foster who's played a couple years at Utah Tech.
Yep.
Maybe he starts early on in the season. Morley kind of starts as a rotational guy, works his way in. But I'll be honest, I really think it's going to be Morley that starts at left guard. I think this dude just has too much of a high ceiling to not go for it.
Could there be a putting Morley on the right side, putting Drew Moss as left guard, where maybe Morley can use his side a little more on the strong side to run
To
behind?
me, that makes more sense. Yes. Yeah. Based on what I've seen, I haven't really seen that yet, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't do it in the future.
Right. And that's more important is what you're seeing.
And Moss, I mean, he has more experience on the right side. He can play right guard or
that would make for an easier
right tackle.
transition.
But the fact that you feel like there are 8-9 guys that if they're on the field, the offense can stay on track, that's just a position that we haven't been in since 2015. Like, you got to go back to like the end of McElwain and into the beginning of Bobo.
Yes,
I mean, it's been a while since you had guys that were like playing under Tyson Brilo that went on to be multiple all-conference selections in the years after. I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And Bill Best deserves so much credit because this was a disaster of an O-line in 2022. They tried to piece some bodies together from around the country and it just didn't work. They have been able to identify guys and go out and get guys that can play right away while also going out and getting the young guys to develop under them. And they should feel the fruit of that this year, that's always going to have to be the plan. Like if you're going to try and be we're going to sign 50 transfers year in and year out, like good luck, especially in the trenches.
Well, and if you can get those returns now, then every year after will
just gets easier.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Huge.
I'm really excited about the direction of this offense. We'll project the starting defense probably next week. So that'll be fun to get into all of that fun stuff.
Love that.
I want to get into whether Tory Horton is a top 5 wide receiver prospect going into the 2025 draft cycle.
Great question.
I have seen some posts on Twitter. It's that time of year where people start, speculating on all that. I would guess if you had to go number 1, it would probably be Luther Burden from Missouri right now.
Oof, what a playmaker.
God, dude's a stud. Like he might be a top 5 pick.
Absolutely. That's the ceiling, yes. Doesn't seem as loaded a wide receiver class as last year's, though.
Well, and we say that every year, but
yeah.
And then all of a sudden by October, we're like, actually, it's better than last year's.
That's exactly right.
It's interesting, though, because, I mean, when you look at some of the names that are coming back, Luther Burden's the big one. You got Trey McMillan back at U of A. Evan Stewart is a guy who's gotten a lot of love at Oregon. Isaiah Bond of Texas.
A&M transfer, yeah. Bond is he showed some flashes at Alabama that were insane.
He was a big loss for the Crimson Tide.
Indeed.
Juice Wells at Ole Miss.
Yeah. Emeka Egbuka would be one that we haven't brought up, but him coming back to Ohio State, I thought was pretty big.
Huge.
Yeah.
And that's one of those classic situations of like, he'll probably make more money at Ohio State than he would have on a rookie deal as like a 3rd-round pick.
Boy, I don't know. They had a lot of guys return, so they're paying a lot of money to a lot of players. Because at least I at least moved 5 guys from my 24 draft board and had to put them on my new 25 draft board from Ohio State, who I kind of assumed would be there. Egbuka, Denzel Burke.
I'm curious
JT
to see
Tuamalu,
if this is kind of the last year of that. Like, because this is kind of the last year you'll have the COVID guys.
Yeah.
You'll still have more people coming back because of NIL, but I think especially this draft class in particular, and then last year to an extent too, there were just so many guys that played like 4 or 5 years of college football. Do you think we have more of that still?
For sure. So what would the trickle down economics of that then be? Could the NIL deals start to become bigger because the
There's less of
pool
them?
of players to choose from is lesser.
That's the question to me. Does it impact more veterans, or does it maybe lead to
Like, when
a
does
couple
the-
more high school guys getting prioritized early on?
Right. And then it starts to kind of like, when does the money become big enough to actually challenge some of these rookie contracts, if it's not already?
Well, and then as soon as that happens, the NFL will be all right, never mind, let's make some adjustments because they want their guys.
We would fix the rookie. And I think there's certain positions where it's just never, like, running backs are always going to come out early, start that clock early, try to limit the tread on the tires. The rest, I don't know. We kind of got to see, man. I think there's a bit of a dividing line where before it was like, if I'm a pick in the top 3 rounds, I'd go. If I'm on the fence, maybe I stay. Now I think it's more like, if I'm a top 15 lock, top 10 lock,
Then I'm going. If not, maybe
if
we'll
not, like, Jared Verse to me last year was very telling.
see. Oh yeah,
I mean, he
would have
was
been a first round
top
pick.
15-ish guarantee. Top 20 certainly.
It's
And he didn't improve his stock, but I think he's happy with his decision. Still gets selected 19th.
as flawed as this NIL process is, and I do think there are real changes that need to come just for the structure of the sport and sustainability and roster building.
Well,
The best thing to come out of it is that good college football players are playing college football longer. And the fact that Tory Horton is coming back is a perfect example of that. Like 10 years ago, there's no way that Tory Horton's coming back for this year. I mean, granted, also because they wouldn't have a 5th year because of COVID, but
no, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right.
like, even if he was going to be like a 6th round, 5th round pick, you just go because it's the money.
Yeah. Yeah, start that clock. Now, less likely.
I think he's a top 5 receiver, at least on paper right now. I think you'd put him behind Isaiah Bond. I think you put him behind Agbuka. You put him behind Burden. But then I think he's in the conversation there with the McMillans and the, Wells and Trey Harrises of the world.
Yeah, I think I like him better than half those guys. I think he's right there on the 5th spot borderline, I mean, how fast do you think Tory runs? That's going to be
He'll run a
factor
4.4
in
on the slow side. Like, I think he could maybe run faster than that.
That's pretty darn good, though.
He is fast as hell. He's like one of those dudes, like in
He's
pads
really
especially.
fast, man. So I think he's right there on the border. And I think another interesting conversation is going to be who's the first Mountain West skill position player drafted. Is it him or Ashton Genty?
The running back value thing's going to hurt Genty.
I was surprised in a Devy league to see Genty go in the very last round. I thought he was kind of our secret,
I think he's reached that point now where it's
I do too.
the real guys know that he's gonna.
And when I watch tape of him compared to some of the other running backs in this class, I totally get it. He has nothing to envy anyone.
Speaking of Genty, we were
And the same
talking
goes for
about
Tory.
Armani Winfield being a top 50 prospect coming out of Texas in 2022. 2 names below Winfield, I believe, on the 247. There's either 2 names below or 2 names above Ashton Genty. So that gives you the type of idea of the athletic profile that Winfield has coming in.
Caliber of athlete you had right there. So yeah, I think he's sitting right there, right around the 5th spot.
What do you
Another
like
factor
most
in
about
this
him?
is, Travis Hunter's already been mentioned. What position does he play? Will he fall into?
He's a corner to me at the
all
next
this?
level.
We shall see. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation to come up on Hunter that we haven't really had to have on a prospect before. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Just what do you like the most about Tory Horton as an NFL prospect? Where does he need to grow this year to put himself in that conversation?
It's probably the combination of route running, hand size, speed that I like the most. Hands is probably the thing that stands out the most. He is a one tough cookie, man.
That dude, he took a beating last year.
He played through injuries. He made some really tough catches while, taking big hits, and he always seemed to come down with it.
Shoot, he had one in the CU game where the ball's freaking 3.5 yards out of bounds, and he somehow full speed's able to catch it, get his feet down. And it's a situation where even the broadcast is like, oh my God, that's a great catch.
Competitive as hell, man. I think the biggest concern is going to be the injuries, honestly.
Can he stay healthy? You want to see some more contested catches is
Yeah.
what I've kind of heard in terms of the feedback he's gotten from NFL circles. So
Yeah. Show off that athleticism a little more on go balls and run after the catch. But that's been more, like if him and BFN get into more of a role, we'll see that. I think it's really going to be injury and the same old stupid quality of competition bullshit we hear every year. But again, he'll just go back to the Travis Hunter tape and be like, oh yeah, he torched the best corner in this class. Cool, we're good.
Can't wait to see. And he's going to have an opportunity to play against some high-profile teams. You got Texas. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of attention on that CU game. You've got Fresno State, who should be one of the front runners in the Mountain West. They'll play at Oregon State. So an opportunity
always tough.
No Boise this year.
That's going to be
with
beautiful.
the schedule change. It's
going to be beautiful.
Yeah, we get to live with that crazy win for 2 years.
And you never know. Maybe another Thorpe Award winner, Air Force or something.
Yeah, you never know. It's going to be fun to see. Again, shout out to everybody in the comment section. Somebody mentioned Ricky White. He's a stud at receiver as well. Yeah, shout out to everybody rocking with us, even those of you trying to get under my skin. Let's get into, before we get out of here, I just wanted to pick your brain. This has been the big topic of discussion on every podcast. It's what's trending right now.
Yeah.
Austin Rivers, very bold statement, said you could take 30 players in the NBA, put them in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Says you cannot do the same with the NFL and the NBA.
Yeah.
What is your gut reaction to that?
Yeah, he's 100% right. That's spot on. Simple mathematics make this possible. There are thousands, how many? 53 times 32, right? And then you have practice squads compared to 15 times 30.
Okay, so
and
put
then
the
G League guys.
I get yes. Put the math aside though, and go with the heart of the statement, which is that basketball players. He's saying they're the best athletes in the world. Which would you agree with that?
NBA players are the best athletes in the world. I would agree with that. NBA players also have the rarest, I think, combination of size, skill, athleticism. And all that makes it way harder to make it in the NBA than it does to make it in the NFL.
The big question mark is the physicality
NFL, you
element.
just have to be big to make it.
And tough. I think it's discounting. Yeah. There's a lot of basketball players that end up on the court because they don't like taking a hit.
Yeah, of course.
And
no doubt.
I think that's very much discounting the physical element of football.
Yeah. I just think because...
I think you could take 10 players in the NBA.
Just because LeBron whines about extra calls doesn't mean that
he's
like
not LeBron he'd be fine. Go watch his high school football.
No, he would be fine.
He'd be fine.
Anthony Edwards also quite the dog. I think he'd probably be fine taking hits in an NFL setting.
Oh, it's those kind of guys.
Yeah, it's a big league. I could find 30 of those, I think. I think it's a lot easier to find 10 to 30 NFL players who could give me 4 to 5 snaps or be like, yeah, with some development, he could be a hell of a rotational edge rusher. He could be a hell of a red zone tight end.
Well, I mean, that's obviously Antonio Gates and Jimmy Graham and all that, but
right. The NBA, the NFL, it's going to be a lot harder. And here we start to really kind of, divide hairs?
Split hairs.
Split hairs. Because I'm sure there are some guys in the NFL players who could easily make it as the 12th to 15th guy on an NBA roster.
Yeah.
Luke Garza comes in on garbage time.
Yeah, could you bring a 6'5", 6'6" guy to get rebounds?
Right, could Max Crosby maybe get... Now, I don't know what kind of a baller Max Crosby is.
I get what you're saying.
Cooper DeJean, could he come in and compete with Colin Gillespie to be the 14th guy on the Nuggets roster?
I think so.
Probably. I don't think those guys could warrant the snaps that a LeBron could give me as my red zone tight end.
That's fair.
or an Anthony Edwards could give me as my weak side linebacker that I just use in nickel packages or something.
I'm with you. I think it's fun to think about. I mean, I'll say this. The fact that when Jason Kelsey is going on record and being like, well,
that was so
you would
great.
play in the
That was
NBA
so
if you
great.
could. Everybody that's in the
play
NFL would rather be in the NBA.
And your argument about toughness is the correct one. I just think it's going to be easier for me to find those few tough guys in the NBA who also have the size, athleticism, natural hands, like to translate, that it is NFL players who have the skill as a basketball player to even warm a cup of tea in the NBA.
The combination of skill, size, and explosiveness at the NBA is just like, these are aliens.
They are aliens. And yeah, it's just such a high threshold to break into. And that is where the math does factor in. Like, you know some unbelievable basketball players who are not in the NBA.
They're not
right
even
now,
going to crack.
man.
They're not even going to get a chance.
That's different.
It's a good point.
That's different from football, man.
You're going to get a shot somewhere.
You are going to get a shot. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody in the Toyota chat. Much love to all you. I'm going live tomorrow, 10 a.m. with, and you can check out my interview with Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated. It's a great one.
Yeah,
he's one of the best
fantastic.
minds in college basketball. You guys are really going to enjoy it. Shout out to Alyssa behind the sticks. Much love, y'all. Always proud to be.
Hell
Go
yeah.
Avs. Peace.
Damn straight.
We all silly like the mayor.